So right after doing my previous video I just posted talking about could Reach fight off an Orkawa, my brain kind of went, you know what? What if another scenario happened? And that is, as you can see, could Cadia fight off the Covenant? So instead of the ruinous powers invading Cadia, what if the entirety of the Covenant Armada just decided to end up on Cadia's doorstep and went, "What's up, bitches?" So, could Cadia stand against the Covenant? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, much like what I said about like the orcs invading Reach, the whole thing is that there isn't going to be like there is going to be an ideological difference here. It's not like Cadia is going to be destroyed. It's more like it would be tried to be conquered. It would, like, destroying Cadia is on the table for the Covenant, but they never really do the whole planet-breaking thing. It's more along the lines of, we'll glass the planet and leave it standing. So, Cadia is, in this scenario, at full force, and on top of that, they still have alliances with, they have an alliance with Trazyn. So Trazyn is in play in this scenario. Belisarius is out there, Ussachar Creed is leading the charge. It is basically the the stand of Cadia against the Covenant. So the Covenant do have that ideological sense of eradicating the eradicating humans, taking over the galaxy, things like that. But here's the thing: if they thought fighting the UNSC was a headache, they have not met the Imperium. The Imperium is also like kill anything that isn't human. So. And not only that, the Imperium has ocean and oceans, I should say, oceans and oceans of meat for the grinder. Now, the other thing that makes Cadia interesting, and probably why it took so long for Abaddon to take over, was because every Cadian was trained at a young age in the army and trained how to be a soldier. So everywhere the Covenant go, it isn't like on Reach or some other colony worlds where they only encountered like a military force and encountered civilians. Maybe civilians took up arms, but there's no civilians here. Only soldiers. Everywhere they look, even the youngest child knows how to work a las-gun on Reach. So everywhere the Covenant looks, they are going to be encountering an army of well-trained soldiers, all of whom believe in dying for the Emperor and killing your alien ass. So you have that going for them. On top of that, you have to understand that Ussachar Creed and the entirety of Cadia was well stocked. It was like with Reach, where that was a focal point of the galaxy, but there it wasn't so much a manufacturing world. Here it was to slow down or stop the enemies of the warp from getting through. So, yeah, these guys are battle-hardened, and these guys are well-stocked in weaponry. I also imagine in space, while the Covenant fleet is probably got the edge over your basic battle fleet Gothic, for the most part, the sheer numbers that the Imperium have, their ships are probably going to be blowing up a few Covenant ships, even though, technically speaking, Covenant ships are way more advanced, and they can move faster than the Imperium ships. They can just use slip space to bounce in and out. So space battle, while I think the Imperium ships could probably destroy several of them, I would say that the Covenant Armada does ace them at some point. But the thing is that the whole, it's much like what I said about the Orkawa on Reach, is that the Covenant ain't so great on long-term sieges. It's much like with the orcs, but here it's not going to get bored. It's more like we have to pull out and leave. Whereas with Abaddon, he just kept fighting until he decided to just rage quit and crash his Black Fortress into the planet. The Covenant's not going to do that. What the Covenant is going to do is dump every soldier onto the planet until they realize they can't take it. They'll run with their tails between their legs, then come back maybe 10 years with a different battle plan. So there is that. But if it does get to it, they will dump a mass amount of forces in an attempt to wipe out that planet, wipe out every life on that planet. So like I said, I've been talking about the Imperium and your basic guardsmen, who probably would, the last things that your basic guardsmen would hear is "wort." They could definitely be going. They could definitely be killing the grunts in mass. But when it comes to elites and the body shield they have, it's probably going to take a lot more las guns and a lot more dead guardsmen on top of that. But then we get into play the Space Marines. When the Space Marines show up, like when they get boots on the ground, it's a different story. If they had, if they were calling Spartans demons, they would just be calling Space Marines devils, like straight up, like gods of hell or something like that. And yeah, when the Space Marines are on the ground, your elites and brutes are going to be more tangled with fighting them than they are fighting, your guardsmen. Those are probably going to be left up to jackals and grunts. I imagine hunters would also be allocated to fighting Space Marines. And on top of that, you still have Trazen, who's probably going around, laughing like a giggling like a schoolgirl as he collects as many as he can of the Covenant. And on top of that, also using his Death Marks and Lich Guard to bring support. And whatever is in his collection. He'll just open up his Tesseracts and just unleash all of that shit on you. So, yeah. Ground-wise, space-wise, it's a... Space-wise, like I said, the Covenant have probably, and that's the other thing, is that the Covenant could probably use, that ship-to-ship supremacy to choke Cadia. It's not like with the Ruinous Powers, where they were more concerned about just bombing the planet, which I imagine the Covenant would still do. The Covenant, at one point, once they realized that tons and tons of forces are being allocated to save Cadia, they're going to put up a massive, and I do stress massive, blockade around the planet that's going to be part-time blasting from orbit and part-time shooting off into space at whatever supply ships try to reach them. So the Imperium has to work fast. And on top of that, the Imperium doesn't have the same kind of level of construction that the Covenant has. And a lot of their ships are archaic. So it's going to take a while. And that's really the only thing Cadia would have to face, is that they have to break that blockade that the Covenant would probably put around the planet. But in terms of numbers, and also having Space Marine aid on top of, Trazen backing them up, I could easily see Cadia standing against the Covenant. Would they be worse for wear? Absolutely. They would be beaten and bloody, and half the planet would be in flames, but Cadia would stand. I personally believe, they could probably hold it back against the Covenant, who would eventually be like, we can't allocate this much force into fighting them. And that's again, that's how the Imperium kind of wins, is that they just they just overrun you. And again, Cadia isn't like your basic Imperium world. Every civilian's a soldier. So yeah. But you guys tell me in the comments below, do you think Cadia stands, or do you think the Covenant takes over Cadia? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.